So we're going to talk about carbohydrates for a couple slides here. So carbohydrates are a pretty significant, important group of large molecules that we deal with in biology. And they're also sometimes referred to as sugars. But the word sugar means different things. Like it means different things in everyday life than it does in chemistry. And so to avoid some confusion, I'm going to try and avoid using the word sugar as much as I can. And we're going to use the more technical term of monosaccharide. So up here we see monosaccharide. So saccharide basically means sweet. So this is where the sugar idea comes from. And mono, we know already, means one. So this word monosaccharide basically means one individual sugar molecule. There are multiple different types of monosaccharides out there, but one of the biggest one, the most famous one, our favorite one, if you want to say that in biology, is glucose. So glucose is an example of a monosaccharide. Glucose, its chemical formula is, molecular formula is C6H12O6, and then its structural formula is right here. So glucose is a very interesting molecule. It does a couple of funky things. So here you can see it drawn like, here's the 6 carbons, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, drawn in a straight line. But this molecule, when it's dissolved in water, this molecule can actually do this thing where it circularizes itself. So it sort of shows what's happening here. This back and forth arrow right here and right here shows that the molecule kind of bends around on itself and then kind of connects to itself and makes a ring. There's not many molecules that can do this. It's kind of a funky, unique thing that glucose can do. So it comes in 2 forms, the linear form and the ring form. But when the glucose is dissolved in water, which it is, like most of the time in your body, it's floating around your blood, which is watery, or it's in your cells, which are full of water. Glucose tends to be like this, like the ring. So we tend to draw it like a ring shape or this hexagon to summarize it for biology. So a couple things to note. This is the full structure drawn out here. Here it is abbreviated, and when I mean abbreviated, you can see that the C's are missing because we assume you know they're there because there's like junctions between the lines. And the OHs, there should be a line between the O and the H. You know, if you drew this out, it would be much bigger and more complicated. And so even that is a lot to draw out, right? So to make things even easier, we abbreviate it to this hexagon. A green hexagon is what I'm going to use to abbreviate glucose. So it's me being lazy because I don't like to draw the whole thing out, and I can't draw it out with this pen anyway. All right, so glucose is an example of a monosaccharide, a one individual sugar, and it looks like a ring. Okay, so let's move on. So up here on this slide, there are 2 reactions. We know that because there are 2 arrows. Look, here's an arrow here. So there's a reaction going from here to here. These are our reactants. And these are our products, or one product here. And there's another reaction. Look, here's another arrow. This is our reactant. And these are our products. 2 different reactions shown on this slide. They're separate. I could sort of draw a line through here to separate them out. All right. So based on what we've covered so far in this week, have a look at those reactions and see if you can figure out what is going on in the top reaction, reaction 1, and the bottom reaction, reaction 2. Pause the video and have a look. All right, so what you should have determined is at the top, we start off with 2 separate molecules. There's one here on the left and one here on the right, and they're both glucose. It has the name underneath them. And there's nothing joining them up. There's nothing actually in here. There's no line or anything there. They're completely separate from each other. And we show here that there's an OH on the glucose on the left and an H here from the glucose on the right if we take this H and this O, that's two H's and an O, we can make a molecule of water. And then this oxygen that's left behind, attached here, this oxygen can then hook directly over here. So this oxygen here is the one that was left right here. Let me start this over, sorry. This oxygen here is this one here. And when it loses the H that's attached to it for the hydroxyl group, it wants to make another bond. So instead it directly bonds over here, which is what you see here. So we have gone from two separate individual glucose molecules that aren't connected to one bigger molecule that's all hooked together with covalent bonds hooking the whole thing up, right? This is an example, this top reaction one, of condensation synthesis. So this is our condensation synthesis. All right. How do we know? Well, condensation, look, water appeared, it popped out here, and it was synthesis because we made something. We built maltose, which is bigger than the individual glucoses were. All right. And in fact, glucose is a monosaccharide, one sugar. Maltose, we would call this a disaccharide because it's got two of the individual things, the individual green hexagons, which we know as glucose, hooked together. Two of them hooked together, a disaccharide. All right. Let's look at reaction 2. You may be able to guess where this is going. On reaction 2, we start off with a disaccharide. Look, it's two green. This one isn't a hexagon, it's slightly different, but it's a carbohydrate of some form. We've got two of them, and they're hooked together. So this is a disaccharide. It's one whole molecule. And we are going to do a reaction. Here's my arrow showing the reaction. And at the end of the reaction, we have two separate molecules. There's nothing hooking them together anymore. One is called glucose, one is called fructose. And over here it says, show me the water. When we split apart this, this bond here, this linkage that's hooking these two together, we have to put water in to break that apart. And so here's the H of the water, and here's the other H and the O. So, and this O up here is this one right here. But we had to put water in. The H2O had to go in here to break apart the connection. And this is an example of hydrolysis. Breaking, oops, ran out of space. Hold on. Try that again. Hydrolysis. So a couple other things you can notice on here. One is these monosaccharides and disaccharides, their name tends to end in O's. We have glucose, we have maltose. This one is called sucrose, this disaccharide here. This is table sugar. This is what you buy when you buy a bag of sugar at the store. Glucose again, fructose, they're all O's. Most sugars, mono and disaccharides, have names that end in O's. And you can see that there's different ones, right? You don't have to memorize these. You don't have to know exactly how to draw them out. It is helpful to remember that glucose is a monosaccharide, sucrose is a disaccharide. Those come up quite often. All right.